All right, so how's it going today, Robby?
Great. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
So, how about for the listeners here, if you could give us just like a little bit about your background, what you've got going on, and what you're doing.
Sure. So, I am currently the owner of Limitless Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Fitness. I shouldn't say currently, I will be the owner, probably forever. I'm 25 years old. I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts full-time, mainly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing this for training and competing in mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 10 years, but I've had my academy for 2.5 years. So I teach full-time and I compete, I consider full-time as well. At this point, I consider like Jiu-Jitsu is like a professional sport for me now because I do get competitively get paid, and I'm looking to transition into professional mixed martial arts.
Awesome.
Awesome, very cool. So, if we go back to the very beginning, what kind of got you into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the first place? What drew you into it, and what sparked you to say, I want to do this?
Sure. So actually what really got me involved initially was MMA. I wanted to do MMA. That was mainly like the passion. Like I saw the UFC on TV and I was like, I want to be a UFC fighter like most kids who like get into something. I think it's a cool sport. So it's like the cool factor that got me. But it was really just me being a hyper kid. I was super energetic, like the ADD, ADHD bouncing off the walls, like needed an outlet, and I was like not a great athlete. So I tried sports that just didn't really fit me. And after a year of wrestling, I was watching UFC a lot. I was like, I want to try that. So pretty much I just begged my mom to take me to a martial arts gym. I did all the research. She took me. I did my first jiu-jitsu class and like I fell in love. And prior to that, I did a little bit of boxing. And while I was boxing, they told me about MMA gym that I could check out. I checked it out. I just fell in love with it. And really that's all it was. It started off truthfully as like a cool factor and turned into a passion of mine. And I really was like pretty decent at it. So it all worked out.
Awesome. So, I know you mentioned that you compete. You were actually just recently out at the San Jose Open out in California, bringing back some medals from that. But when you started, did you know that you wanted to compete, or was it you got into it and then something happened and you said, "Whoa, this is awesome! I want to get competitive with it"?
I think I've always been a competitor to the core. So I think in anything I've ever done sport-wise, I've always wanted to compete. So it was never a question if I would. It was just when. And I think because I was surrounded at the time with so many like stars like on the rise, so many guys that were in the UFC or about to transition, I was just such a cool factor to me. I mean, it's like people I looked up to. So to me, it was a no-brainer. I just wanted to do it as soon as possible, you know. But they had like pump the brakes a little bit, tell me like, calm down, Robby, like we'll get you there. But I did a jiu-jitsu tournament, I think like 3 weeks into like formal training. I got totally smashed my first tournament. I lost. I think I did 3 matches. Yeah, I lost all 3. And so I always tell people never to get discouraged because, you know, in the beginning it's all a learning experience. But
Right.
I lost to a guy who, locally was a really good fighter who ended up moving to, he's in Alaska now, but had a really successful pro career. He's my buddy now. We competed a bunch after that. I lost to a black belt world champion now who's really successful in California, and the other guy, I have no idea who he was. So, but it was like early beginnings, so it's cool to see where we all ended up. So.
Yeah. And at least the guys that you lost to didn't end up being slacks either. So.
No, it was cool. It was really cool to see, you know, we all message each other occasionally and talk about it. You know, we were like 15 competing against each other, so.
That's cool, yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, you like you just said, you lost 3 out of your 3 matches in that first tournament. Obviously you kept competing and you kept driving for it. What was that driving factor? And then was there a moment where things started to click and you're like, okay, I'm getting this down. I'm starting to win some tournaments. And like, was there one pivotal moment? What was that like?
Yeah, so, you know, after I lost, it was pretty much just like, well, I'm just going to keep doing it anyway. I was just really determined. And I still think there was this like a weird underlining thing about this cool factor that I had like proved to myself. I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder as a kid. So I can never just settle for, oh, I lost, you know, I just lost and that was it. Because so many people start things and they just quit. Like that's just the trend, you know, it's normal. So for me, I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. And then it was just like an addiction. I think I have like a very addictive personality. You know, I don't do drugs, I don't like smoke, I don't drink. It's all like, you know, if I drink, it's occasional. But I think that my addiction became martial arts and fitness. So I just became consumed by it, just made me want to keep going and doing it more. And then I think once like a pivotal moment, I think that I just consistently did it. And because I was working so hard, I was winning a lot. because I don't think I was a super, great talent. I just think consistency. And then I would say not until maybe 17-ish when I got my purple belt, I started realizing like I was pretty good. It's pretty exceptionally good. So I'm just gonna keep going. And that was it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So eventually, at some point in this journey, you obviously decided to open your own gym. What was that moment where you decided you wanted to take that leap? And because it's us being a startup, and that's a very entrepreneurial thing. You're an entrepreneur doing this, and I'm sure we know how hard it can be to kind of take that leap and go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like, and what was the thing that kind of pushed you over the edge and made you say, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a long, I'll try to shorten it up, but pretty much I always knew I wanted to be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And from an early age, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know like what it was going to be. First it was like cars, I was really into cars, and then the next thing was martial arts. I had like a big layoff in between 19, I would say, with like competing consistently, 19 to 21. I had a lot of like personal things going on, family issues, some things I had to deal with. So I got really motivated around, let's say 21, 22, right before my 22nd birthday, and I had like a fire lit in me, and I just started competing a ton. And then all of a sudden, there's like a domino effect. Things just kind of fell into place. I took a fight coming off of like a 2.5, 3-year layoff. I won. I did all these tournaments, and I just kept winning. I was in school at the time, and I met somebody who had some space inside of this business. So I could rent pretty much like a sublease, a guy I went to school with. And after doing this big tournament I won in Israel, I realized coming back home, this offer was on the table. This guy's like, look, you can go to school, you can do whatever you want, you can open the gym, but this is on the table. So I pretty much told my mom, school's not my passion. They kind of already knew that. I was doing it to kind of make my family happy, I'd say. And I decided to drop out, and I just fully invested everything into opening the academy. I just said I'm going to go all in. And at first my family was like, grandma, mom, everybody was like, I don't know. It's risky. I don't know if you should do this. But I said I'd make it work, and I did. It wasn't easy, but I made it work. So.
Yeah. So what was that conversation with your family like? You said that they already kind of knew that school wasn't really your thing, but what was that like? That's got to be kind of a hard conversation to have with your family to say, hey, I'm dropping out of school to go all in on this, and it's a big risk. Like you had said, with all your family was. I don't know. What was that kind of conversation like?
Yeah, it was really just, I think my mom and my family pretty much knew at this point that like school it's not that it wasn't working out, it was just kind of a filler.
Yeah.
Like the truth is that most kids are going to school just to fill time because they don't really have a choice. They're trying to find out what they want to do, they're hoping they figure it out. And I wouldn't say the majority, I don't know the percentages, but I'd say half of them do figure it out, another half don't. They get a degree and they're still struggling to get a job, and it sucks. Like I feel for people like that. It's not a fun situation. I just kind of realized that's not what I wanted, and again, I told my mom that, and they were just concerned. They said like, how are you gonna make a living doing this? Like how are you gonna really do it? And truthfully, I didn't really know. I just knew that I would just keep grinding away like I did for most of my athletic career. I believed that it would take me in the right direction. I just knew if I kept working hard, like the path didn't need to be completely set or clear, but I would kind of create my own path along the way. So I think just over time, they saw my passion and my willingness to just put in time and give up sleep, give up going out with friends, relationships, and they saw it slowly flourish. So they started believing in me along the way. So no one told me don't do it, but people were just like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're always skeptical for your well-being. That's what they think.
Yeah, and I won't even look at it like, I don't, there's always like quote unquote like haters, right?
Right.
But I wouldn't say it was like a hating form. Like when people use that, they excessively use everyone's a hater, but it was just more concern. People were concerned. They want to make sure you don't fall on your face.
Sure. Did you have any guidance as far as like how to actually run a business? Like this is how you do. This is how you keep your books and stuff like that. Because that's like a pretty big issue, especially being as young as you are, starting your own business.
Absolutely. No, that's a scary thing. And honestly, my first year of doing taxes, I was totally spooked. I was like, oh, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. Like accounting and all that stuff was not my expertise. No, I had some really good mentors like leading up to opening the academy. So when I was like 19, I personal trained at a gym in Westchester for a while. I was really fortunate, which, I tell people all the time, having good mentors in your life is huge. If you don't have a mentor, you should find one.
Yeah.
What I mean? Have somebody who's been there, done that, or similar things you want to achieve. So I worked under this guy, Tony Pajali, for 3 or 4 years. Yeah, Tony's the man.
I know Tony.
And Tony took me under his wing. Tony literally let me personal train at his gym. So I kind of just picked his brain. And then I had other good people along the way to ask questions that had other academies and just always float ideas off of them. And that really helped. But now as for the books and all that stuff, some of that honestly I think is instinctual. I think it was just born with that kind of that grinding mentality, and also just some people have that gift. Business is your thing, or you're a great writer, you're a great this, that. I think in my family a lot of entrepreneurs. So I think I just learned along the way, ask questions, and then if I didn't know something, again, I would just keep asking until I found out the answer. So I had help with that stuff, but it was scary. The doing the books was difficult. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. So at this point, you've opened your gym. There we go. So at this point, you've opened your gym. Were things smooth sailing right off the bat, or what were some of the obstacles that you ran into? Because I'm sure it wasn't smooth sailing right off the bat.
No, I thought right away. I thought in the first 6 months to a year, I'd have 80 to 100 members. I overshot my goal, which was okay. I mean, I thought it was kind of realistic, but I just didn't realize how hard it would be. Downtown ultimately was not the greatest location, but I took an opportunity that was presented that otherwise I wouldn't have had, so I took a chance. And so downtown, just in general, parking was really hard. Marketing was hard. Getting into the building was difficult because we were on the second floor, so we had a door that was locked. Unless we pushed it open, you couldn't get in. So tons of obstacles. Being downtown, lots of red tape with building out stuff.
I would imagine your rent was pretty expensive down there too.
Actually not as bad as you would think. It was really just a deal I worked out with the guy who I was kind of subleasing from. So It wasn't that bad actually. It was just ultimately location, access to the building, and just red tape with it being in the city, because anytime you want to do any expansion building, you have to have permits, and that led to a bunch of issues. That was definitely a big part of it. Those were the troubles on more of the business of getting people in there. It's just very hard to market that place.
Okay.
So then at some point you ended up moving to Walnut Hills, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. So was it just those kind of business troubles made you decide eventually to move, or was there something that came up that was okay, great, now we have to, all of a sudden move to this new location?
No, I mean, it was business troubles. The guy that, I said, I subleased from, we ran into a bunch of issues. Just a bunch of stuff, he's my age too. So we were both kind of young and naive to things, and so we both thought we knew a lot more than we did. And there was a lot of legality stuff that just wasn't on paper that ran into issues. On top of that, he saw that we were having a ton of issues with me continuing to grow the business, which it wasn't failing, but it just wasn't growing. It was a stalemate. And the big thing is we tried to do a big expansion, and my partner at the time had told me that, I got subleasing from, told me that he had all the permits. He did not have the permits. So as we're building out, I took his word for it again, which was a mistake. And the city came in and shut us down. At one point we were closed. We had all this stuff halfway done, all this money invested. I had to move up to the 11th floor. I had my mats laid out on just an office space. It was super ghetto looking. But I was surprised by how the people stuck by me, but it was tricky. I mean, it was so stressful. So I finally made the decision, I had no choice. I was kind of forced to make a move. And it was the best decision of my life thus far. And I just reached out to get some of my mentors and said, hey, can someone help me maybe look for some commercial real estate? I'm ready to be 100% on my own. And we found a great place in the Cable House, and ironically lived close to there. And it just all fell into place. It literally happened. I looked at the lease in October. We talked about it a little bit towards the end, and then by November 1st, I was signing the lease. Boom, I went to California for the Worlds that week, and then it was just crazy. It was a crazy time. So it happened really quick.
Yeah,
really,
it all fell into
quick.
place for the best.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Awesome.
Fortunate there,
Yeah. So owning your own gym and starting to teach, how does that help you progress as a competitor? Because I'm sure there's aspects of that when you're breaking things down, you start to realize on a deeper level how certain techniques work, or some opportunities that you have there.
Absolutely, yeah. So teaching and being a competitor is tricky, right? So I love teaching and I love competing. Of course, there's days where I prefer to just do one or the other. But what makes it good and how they work hand in hand is you really do break down technique. You have to really think about what you're showing. Obviously as you're talking about it, you want to really have a good breakdown, and you want to also be knowledgeable of like when it's going to work and when it isn't going to work. So one big thing I like about guys that are competitors that teach is like they can really say this works, this doesn't, which there's a lot of people that like, for example, who have like done bodybuilding, it's like they've done it on their own, but they've never competed, so they can't really tell you, like what it's like to go on stage. You can't really say like what are the little details, the tricks. And so when you're a competitor, you can do that. You can be like, hey, look, that move that you're trying to do over and over again isn't ever going to work. Like, it's just not going to work. Like, you think it is, but buddy, trust me, it's not going to work from experience. So I think that helps a lot. And it just makes your game more technical. It definitely makes your game more technical for sure.
Awesome. So as someone that's kind of digging into these techniques and competing and, trying to compete at this world-class level, like you mentioned, you went to the Worlds that one weekend where you had all that stuff going on with the transition, but what does your training look like on either a daily or a weekly basis to keep you at that top level?
Sure. So I was training for an MMA fight in the summer, so my schedule is a little bit different. Right now, it's been way more jiu-jitsu related because that's where my attention's been. But I typically train 5 days a week, 2 times a day, and it just varies. It really does vary sometimes, but typically 5. I try to take off Saturday and Sunday. Try to. But for example, like today, what I usually be resting, I'm going to go do a wrestling practice at SuppleMENTal Wrestling just to get some extra training in. But 3 days a week, I try to do some strength and conditioning training, but I keep it very lightweight training, high reps, low weight, muscular endurance is like what I want for what I do. I know I'm a pretty strong guy, like naturally, like not necessarily like weightlifting strong, but I've always felt like I've been pretty strong. So I just want my endurance to be good. I mean, for me, my biggest fears when I compete are never that I'm gonna get overpowered or anything like that, so I'll get tired. And so one thing that Tony, my mentor, always instilled in me was like, if you have the lungs, the conditioning, you can push, you'll be fine. So maybe 2-3 times a week, and then jiu-jitsu training, I'm training at least 5 days a week. Sometimes I'll do sessions in the morning with a couple of my students, do like more like one-on-one stuff, and we'll just drill and roll, or I'll go to Columbus to train with my coach. And then I'll typically try to roll in the evening with my students as well, and just try to get as much training as possible. And then rest, of course, because you have to be smart about that. And then if I can sneak in, some boxing or striking, which I try to still do a couple times a week, I'll have the guy I do privates with as well. We'll trade. He'll hold mids for me. I'll do a private with him. So I try to still stay really involved in like all aspects.
Awesome. And then on that end, as a competitor and as someone who's training so hard, and obviously we're a company involved with supplements, how do you look at your supplement regimen and your nutrition to make sure that you're able to recover properly, get the proper nutrition, but then obviously there's still issues with making sure you're not taking banned substances? Because if you're looking at competing, that can be a huge issue.
Absolutely, and I'm really big against banned substances. I'm huge in that, talk about it a lot. It's actually something that's like a big hush-hush, like we're not supposed to talk about it a lot. Because so many athletes do take banned substances, some form of a steroid or testosterone, whatever you want to call it. The people are doing it. The reality is like there's no way we can ever completely clean up any sport. They're always going to find a way. So I'll come back to that. But what I personally do, I take I've been working with Garden of Life for about 3.5-4 years now. And so before that, I took like a lot of over-the-counter stuff, anything to get my hands on, like a Walmart, Kroger, but it's just cheap stuff like 5-star, whatever. And whey protein used to always like upset my stomach. So I stopped taking like supplements for a little bit because I wasn't really gaining anything out of it. And then I got with Garden of Life, all their stuff being non-GMO, organic, plant-based, just super clean, like soy-free, no dairy, et cetera, gluten-free. It was great. Like my body felt great. And then they just came out with the sport line recently, which is awesome. So I just started taking that about 2 weeks ago, which is NSF certified, which is huge because not too many products get that. So for me, I take my fish oil in the morning, all Garden of Life based. I take my vitamin C. I'll take a supplement called L-theanine, which is supposed to help with like focus and relaxation. And that's really it. It's a vitamin B12 spray, vitamin C, and then I'll take my protein after I work out. It'll probably just be my plant-based Garden of Life protein. And then they just came out with a recovery thing, so it has like glutamine in it and some other things. But all their sources come from plants, which is amazing. And and it just digests better. You feel better. It doesn't feel junky. Like I know I'm taking good products because again it is NSF certified. I know there's no banned substances in it, and that's huge. That's huge for having like a healthy lifestyle. If I take shortcuts now, in the long run I'll be destroyed, and I'm not about that.
Absolutely. And for somebody who pushes themselves daily, the way you do and other mixed martial artists do, if you feel a supplement helps you that much, it's getting it's a good product, it's a quality product, and it's helping you. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not big, and I never want to be like dependent on anything either.
Right.
So I like always take little breaks in between stuff. Like I like drinking coffee. I'll incorporate like black coffee as like a pre-workout a lot. And then again, something Tony told me a long time ago is better than taking all these other fillers that you can take. Because I had taken like the C4 and all these other things, and they were great. But for me, I'm so sensitive to all that, and then I look at all the byproducts and junk in it. Like Rich would tell me, like, "Oh my God, this has like the big red artificial sweetener." It's just junk, So I've really tried to stay on that clean and healthy route, and then a good diet as well. But to be honest, like I eat really clean generally, but that doesn't mean I don't have pizza and cookies and cake. I have a sweet tooth,
Sure.
For me to say I'm always like 100% on my A game with my diet would be a lie,
Okay.
I'm just not. But when I have a fight coming up or I have to cut weight, I'm 100% on a really clean diet. I portion stuff out, lean protein, like all my meats are lean. I'll eat chicken, fish, I'll still have steak, a lot of rice, a lot of sweet potatoes, lots of vegetables, get my glycogen, and tons of garden of life.
So do you keep up with like the WADA banned substances or anything like that? Because I think caffeine's banned in a few organizations, just
it's interesting.
by itself.
I don't know actually, I do not keep up with the WADA banned substance list. I know they're always adding to it. I know a lot of athletes who have got popped have said they had no idea. Sometimes I'll believe some of this stuff, but like they do change it a lot, so I'll give some people leadway. But most of the time, you know what you're doing. I think there's a few exceptions. Caffeine is a surprise to me now. I personally have never taken caffeine before a competition, like for MMA. Like before a jiu-jitsu tournament, I have drank like a black cup of coffee, but no pre-workout, nothing like that. That would make me too nervous. But going back to the whole banned substance thing is that we know it's like it's an unsaid thing. We just all know who's doing what, and it's been brought up to me too. Like people have told me that, hey, like not that you could be bigger, stronger, faster, that's just a given, but like, hey, everyone is doing this. Everyone's doing it leading up to this event to hopefully get the edge. Like, have you ever thought about doing this? Or there's this doctor who will, prescribe you steroids, essentially. And it's always been no. I mean, I've never had interest. I've never had interest because I look at the long-term effects and it's just not worth it. And it's cheating, you know what I mean? Like, the reality is, like, I get pretty passionate about this stuff because, like, I work really hard. Like, I've dedicated my life to this, and I don't appreciate a cheater. And the guys that are doing it, everyone's got their own way to try to justify, health issues, this, that, or the other. If you have a legitimate health issue and a doctor tells you, who's a legit doctor, says you should take something to help regulate something, great. But most of these guys don't. Like, your testosterone being under, like, 0.1 and saying you need, like, an extra, like, 10 points or whatever is crap. You know what I mean? It just is. And it just sucks when you run into that.
Right.
But it's going to happen.
Have you ever heard, there was an article in Sports Illustrated a couple years ago. They interviewed a bunch of Olympic athletes, and they said if you could take a product that would significantly improve your performance, like basically guarantee you'd be a champion, but it would kill you in 5 years. And like, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like over half of them were like, yeah, I would take that.
Yeah,
all in the name of leaving themselves their Olympic legacy.
It's
5
crazy.
years.
And it really is crazy to hear that. And I have heard that before. And to think that somebody would really want to shorten their lifespan for that. I mean, look, being an athlete, and I consider myself a pretty high level athlete, I get it to a certain extent. But those are the individuals that aren't looking down the road to their future at all. They're not thinking about the next step in life, which is like, it's not bad to always have blinders on, but the reality is that you're only going to be an athlete for a short period of time. And that glory and all that stuff is great, but a lot of issues that athletes have post-athletic careers, depression. Some of them commit suicide. Some of them have tons of disorders, whether they're in full contact sports or they were just playing freaking water polo. It doesn't matter. When it's over, they don't know what to do. So the people that probably answer that truthfully, even though they're the insane Olympians, they're not thinking about the next step.
Yeah.
And if you're not thinking about the next step, then you will probably end up going down a dark path at some point.
Their whole identity is wrapped up in being that person then. And like you said, yeah, they're not thinking about what's happening 20 years from now, and obviously not 20 years from now if they're willing to take something that would kill them in 5 years. So,
Yeah. And for me, I would never do that. It's just not worth it. Like I said, I believe in hard work. I was raised on hard work.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised on like a grinding mentality. I had a single mom who raised, myself and my sister, and nothing came easy for us. Everything was just like grind. So I tell people all the time, it might take me another year, it could take me 5 more years, whatever, but I know I'll become a world champion in jiu-jitsu for sure. And if I choose to really push for MMA, I know I could do the same.
Mm-hmm.
But for jiu-jitsu, I 100% know I'll become a world champion.
That's awesome. And you never have to worry about your reputation being tainted either,
Yeah.
like with an asterisk in the Hall of Fame or something.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I really don't I don't I always joke. I always like say now, like if someone ever questioned me, I'd be like, just drug test me. I'll do whatever.
Yeah,
I'm clean. Like I would love to get drug tested. I do it.
Take the blood test, the urine test, the follicle test, and throw them all out.
Yeah, I mean, unless Garden of Life one day they're like, there's banned substances in Garden of Life, and I'd be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Everything would go down the tube right there, but.
Awesome. You got anything else to add, Tim?
No, I can't think of anything.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up on our end. Do you have any sort of shout outs or anything you want to give to our listeners?
Garden of Life.
Well, definitely Garden of Life. Yeah, no, Garden of Life's been great. They're a great sponsor. If you're in Cincinnati, definitely check out my academy, Limitless Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Fitness, Walnut Hills. It's 2300 Florence Avenue. We offer, mainly just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We do have a smaller kids program, but mainly adults. We have beginners and advanced. We also have cardio kickboxing. We're not an MMA gym. We do tell people that. Though we do have some people that want to train and fight MMA, we do it separately. And if you're in Westchester at all and you want to do the specific sports training, Tony Bajali with Adrenaline Sports and Fitness is definitely the man to get involved with. And that's it. Otherwise, just follow your dreams while you're young and grind hard now so you can live easy later. That's it. Work hard now, live the easier life later on.
Great.
Awesome. Very cool. Thanks for coming in, Robbie.
Thanks a lot.
Good?
All right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that was
We're
really
all
good.
set.
Hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
No,
you're
that was perfect. I think we
really
ended
good.
it we're at like 27 minutes, which is perfect because
That's what I got. Nice.
we've got it set to with the data plan we've got set up, we can do 4 30-minute episodes a month.
Oh, cool.
So it's like perfect on the timing.
Fantastic. Well, awesome. Thanks. It was really cool.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you very much.
Actually, let me know what happens with Rich and all that. I'll be interested.
Yeah, one of these days when I hear back from him.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I was hopefully. Well, I was wanting to go to Thailand. Did this